you doing, everyone? Just continuing on with my David Bowie collection, and at number 8 we have the brilliant Young Americans album from 1975, his Plastic Soul phase. And what an album this is! What an album! This is funky soul album, of course. As I said, his Plastic Soul era. It was recorded during breaks, I should say, from his Diamond Dogs tour. It features some absolute brilliant songs, this album. Opens up with the classic Young Americans, of course, a very famous song by him. And then it goes into a song called Win, which is an absolute fantastic song. Fascination, a funky piece, which is absolutely brilliant. Very much a standout song on the album. Right, which is another absolute belter of a song. Beautiful song. The backing vocalists he has on that song are absolutely phenomenal on this particular track. Those including Ava Cherry, of course, and the fantastic Luther Vandross. The second side opens up with this very much kind of moody, bluesy, soul-y, just a mixture of so many different sounds. Somebody up there likes me. It just goes off in a totally different direction altogether, that particular song. Next song is Across the Universe, cover of the Beatles song, of course, which is not a bad cover. John Lennon, of course, sings on that with him. Can You Hear Me? A beautiful ballad, very underrated song. And closes with the brilliant Fame, of course, David Bowie's first ever American #1 track. Yes, what an album. What can I say about this album? It's just a standout album, standalone album. It's his soul influence album. He really sings, and his voice is absolutely unreal on this album. The musicians he works with is absolutely fantastic. Of course, he's working with the brilliant Earl Slick as well, and Carlos Alomar, of course, Mike Garson, who he's worked with, of course, a long time collaborator with him for many years. But they all create their own sounds on this album as well. It's so brilliant the way they can take on so many different kind of influences and so many different sounds. And he must have had such a great relationship with his band members, because they kind of just all bounce off each other with different sounds, so forth. And he really put their 2 cents in on this album, because it really is a masterpiece. It's a classic, this album. Absolutely adore this album. It was originally pulled under a different name, of course. It was originally called the Gooster, which had different tracks on it, which actually appear on his Ryko Disc album. But songs like John, I'm Only Dancing Again, It's Gonna Be Me, and Who Can I Be Now were all tracks that were supposed to be on his Gooster album, which it was called that at the first time. It was ready to be final touches and everything put to it. And Bowie then decided that he wanted to go back into the studio with John Lennon and redo some of the tracks and write a couple of more new tracks and take out some of the other tracks and so forth. And you know, I'm kind of glad he did, because the Gooster, which you can get in the New Korea and New Town box set, it got its release in that. It's nowhere near as strong as the Young Americans album. Now, I do like the songs Who Can I Be Now and It's Gonna Be Me, but they're great songs, very well written songs also. But I felt Young Americans, the way it is now, is a very powerful album, to be honest with you. Yes, this is the original 75 pressing, RCA label. It was released in 84 again on RCA. It got a release then in 1990 on the Ryko Disc label. That's that one there, with the bonus tracks, of course, as I just spoke about there, which is Who Can I Be Now, It's Gonna Be Me, and John, I'm Only Dancing Again. It also got a re-release on CD in 1999 on the 24-bit series on CD, and then it appeared also in the Who Can I Be Now box set as well. Yeah, so Young Americans is absolutely fantastic album. I just love the sound of the album. I just think it's a absolute cracker of an album. Yeah, John Lennon, of course, sings on it with him. Some say that the version of Across the Universe is terrible. How could you take on a Beatles song? How could John Lennon let that happen? But I don't mind the version of it, to be honest with you. I think it's not wonderful. Of course, it's nowhere near as good as the Beatles version of it, of course. But it sounds good. It's kind of it fits into the album nicely, of course. It's John Lennon singing backing vocals on it as well. Sounds good. And Fame, of course, which is a song actually that David Bowie's performed primarily, I think, on all his tours. Any tour that David Bowie has done since its release, he's always performed. The song itself is about his ex-manager, Tony DeFries, of course. If you listen to the lyrics, he's getting a dig in at him. And himself and John Lennon, of course, John Lennon helped him through that situation. John Lennon was a great friend of David Bowie's, and helped him through the situation that he was having with DeFries and that. So they worked very well together, so they kind of were very good friends. But yes, it's an absolute fabulous album, Young Americans, and it's my number 8, and it's an album I listen to a lot. It's an album I go to a lot. It's a very funky album. There's some fantastic sounds on this album. Yeah, so he's, as I said there, he's Ava Cherry in the backing vocals. If you listen to a song called Right, which is a real standout track on this album as well, you can hear Luther Vandross, Ava Cherry, another backing vocalist also. Luther Vandross also worked with him, I think, on his Labyrinth soundtrack, done some backing vocals on that with him as well. But yeah, great album, Young Americans, number 8. Thanks again for watching. I should be back with 7.